This is episode 3 of the Startup Summer Series with the Guinness Enterprise Centre. My name is Ronan Donnelly. I'm the Business Development and Community Manager with the GEC. This programme and this series is about interviewing members from our community about their story to date, whether that be scaling and the challenges, the opportunities that they've experienced to date. So recently, the government had introduced phase 1, where a number of sports had been reintroduced to the general population, one being golf. And I'm happy to say that we have a company in the GEC who are pioneering a particular area in golf, and that is putting. And they are SQ9, and this is Kevin Burke today. So Kevin, how are you?
Good. All good.
So I suppose coming into SQ9 and yourself particularly, I mean, you've been working in strategy, you've been working in HR operations with Bank of Ireland and into ICS. How did you come about creating SQ9, and at what point did you decide, right, I'm going to leave this career that I've known for so long and take a completely different path?
I wish I had a nice, neat answer to that one. Right? I think there's, for us, and I think you have to take, when I say us, this would be very much myself and my brother Des.
Yeah.
So what we looked at, effectively both of us had spent a lot of time in big organizations. I with Bank of Ireland Group, which brought me to a lot of places across the world, but also Des with both Hewlett Packard, Nortel and other organizations. And we certainly got to a point where we knew that we would like to do something else rather than just work in a big organization. And certainly at the time we were thinking about it, the world was just coming out of the last recession, as it were. So we were seeing a lot of that hitting our organizations. So what we did was we had a look at what are the different opportunities. It wasn't a case of jumping straight towards golf. There were a number of other things that we thought of that we could do together. We settled on this one. We settled on it for a number of reasons. One, because I think, as you put it, yes, we had a passion for golf, but that only got us a small way. It's passion for your topic, golf in our case, but whether it's farming or anything else, it helps you to understand, because you more quickly pick up things if you're working in an industry that you like, as opposed to something that's as it were, work to you. So for us, that side of it was okay, but the big trick then is, or the big question for us was, what can we bring to the party? So how can we build a business? How can we make money from something like this? And one thing that, one lesson that we were clear of, but also got it in spades as we went through it, just because we played the sport doesn't in any way mean that we actually understand the business of golf. It's a totally different thing. No more than we talked a few minutes ago, the vast difference between a professional, how they approach it, and even gifted amateurs. It is worlds apart. And the same is true of just liking something or playing it or being good at it or whatever, and actually making money out of it and making a business of it. Because probably, truthfully, we had a bad day on the greens and the golf club. We came off and we drowned our sorrows, did all that, and we said, I wonder, what could we do to improve this? Because largely we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know why it was so bad on the day. For a long story short, we got to the point of saying, the great phrase I think is, wouldn't it be great if we had a product that did the following? So I took the marketing or the business side of it and said, I will go and research the market. See, does that make sense? Is there a market out there? What else is out there? And insofar as I could, what's the dynamics of that? Des had a look at the technology side of it to say, in our case, what we wanted to do was measure the putting stroke. So, and it sounds like a very simple thing, but in reality, when you take the covers off it, if you take, most golf courses now will have technology like TrackMan, or certainly if you go outside of Ireland, you will see technology like Sam Putlab and others. But a lot of it is very, very, very expensive. Some of the high-end pieces of gear are 20,000, 24,000. And therefore, the elite professional fitter, professional coach, they're not for normal golf clubs. They're not for normal players. So, and they're based on things like ultrasonics, radar, high-speed cameras, again, all very, very expensive. So what we tried to do was look at the other end of the scale. Wait a second, could we do something using infrared, which is much more, much cheaper to build, to manufacture, to sustain? And the biggest problem with that is that the technology wasn't there to use it for what we wanted to do. So what Des had a look at was, what would the technology look like? And secondly, could we do it? After about 3 or 4 months, we both concluded that there was a market there for it. It was a rough shape of that market. And secondly, we could build it. It was doable, but it would be new technology. So we were crystal clear then that it wasn't going to be an overnight start to build it today and have it in a month's time. Like, in reality, it took us 2 years to get the product battened down. So, and in truth also, we had some very good help. We looked to a lot of professionals in Ireland, particularly Dave Carney, Ian Carney. By absolute pure coincidence, they happen to be brothers, and they both actually came from the same town that we grew up in.
Going back to one of the points that you mentioned there, Kevin, like the fact that you actually enjoyed, you had an interest in golf. Did that kind of get you through some of the rough days, like having a passion for your craft and what you were doing?
It does up to a point.
Yeah.
I think that there's a bit about it where it helped because a lot of it was interesting. So, we had what you might call it, the sexy side of it. We got to talk to a lot of the big coaches or the big companies or a lot of the famous golfers.
Yeah.
There's that and the interest. So it's not a chore to get into your car and drive for 4 hours when you get to talk to somebody. If you're going to someplace like a Royal Dublin behind you there, it's a joy to be on the course. So, even if you are only talking to the pro there or something like that, but it only gets you so far. The rest of it, to be honest, is a little bit about making sure that when you start, you have the resolve. So if you said, what are the traits of somebody that should be an entrepreneur? I mean, everybody will tell you it's a simple resilience. It's commitment. It's the ability to, be knocked down and get back up again straight away. So learn from it.
Yeah.
We took the view that, and again, also we were long enough in big organizations, long enough in business, long enough in work to know that, no, it's not going to go your way every day. You take a deep breath, have a cup of coffee and say, okay, what did I do wrong? And if you didn't do it wrong, you say, okay, well, what else did I learn? How can I make sure this? And so when we started out, we were crystal clear that probably the traits of ourselves and the people that we hired in were to have that.
Yeah.
It's not just about having a confidence. You have to have a resilience and an ability to get it done.
Sure. And what about the so you're talking about getting it done, right? So to get anything done in your sector, especially, you mentioned that it could be quite expensive. You need capital. Where did you guys go for funding? I mean, did you?
The biggest lesson that I would say to people like myself or others is know your numbers, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds really simple, but it means that you have a credible and a realistic understanding of how much is this going to cost? How long are you to drive out cash flow, 2-year cash flow or whatever. It's not grand. It's just slog. It's just sitting at a desk trying to work out how much is this going to cost, being realistic about it. Where's that money going to come from? How many people do I need to have involved, etc., etc. So there's a little bit about understanding that first before you ever dive into it. I think the other piece is to recognize that, no matter what train you're on, you can't assume that you're going to get that funding. So you have to have plan B that says, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. Ideally, I want the funding, and ideally, I want to get a grant, or ideally, whatever. But it doesn't always work that way. And it always, good old adage, it always takes a lot longer than you expect, and all that. So get back to the other piece. What we set out to do was to try and, in ourselves, fund it, some of it ourselves. Some of it was funded by, what's normally called family and friends, and so forth. some of it was sweat equity, all that. Certainly Enterprise Ireland, in fairness, were brilliant. They came on board once we could match the funding. And we took in one serious external investor. Again, no more than I said, I'd love to have a nice, neat answer to say, how do we do all that? There's a little bit about, it's always going to be 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
Yeah.
And the order in which we did it wasn't as nice and neat as we would have liked. But we were able to, with a combination of all of that, get through the prototyping stage, get through the first customer stage, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, it was all a combination of all those pieces. I think, like most, it was a slog in terms of presentation, redoing your projections, et cetera, all that. But a lot of it was down to simply understanding the business, understanding the market, understanding the dynamics, but right back to the first piece, understand the numbers. How are you going to make money? Where does this, and it sounds like, to someone like yourself or anybody else that's in a startup business, of course, but it's, to be honest, I've met too many people over the course of the last number of years that don't have an appreciation. They, to use the other good old adage, they think that if they build it, they will come. And it doesn't always work.
Yeah, and what about, like, I mean, with the on the number side, you know, I could definitely see, like, as a consumer, like for anyone who hasn't seen, I mean, the actual product itself, tablet size, it's very neat. It doesn't take up a huge amount of space. A lot of golf equipment generally does take up quite a lot of space, but I mean, it could slot in a library almost, or a bookshelf if you had one. I would buy one. I know colleagues of mine who've seen your product would buy one. However, like, did you originally start off as B2C and then move over to a B2B kind of model, or how did that originate? Had you focused on, like, the individual golfer and then completely shift course?
Yes, but not as quickly as that. It wasn't a straight linear piece. I think that we started out with the business to consumer route. So we built, as you say, a very slim tablet. It's about 7 millimeters thin. It's about the size of an A4 pad, thin A4 pad. And the huge plus to it is that there's no connection and so forth. There's no wires, no anything. It works through Bluetooth, all up to your phone and up to the web. So in that sense, it's very neat. The challenge that we faced, though, is how do we get? The original product that we built on the web side was very much focused on the consumer. We faced 2 challenges. One was that to get it into the hands of the ordinary golfer required an awful lot of legwork in terms of either promotion, product placement, and because it was a new product, didn't matter how good it was, a lot of the chains, the retail chains, for example, would use that excuse to drive down our margin. So what we found was that we were going to boil the ocean for a long time to get product awareness. Now, that's no different than many others. We went to the show. In golf, there's a PGA show in America, and we went there the first year to show our product. And apart from, we got a lot of sales out of it, a lot of recognition, a lot of good media coverage and things like that. But we got 2 big messages. A lot of the professionals that were there, one, the coaches wanted to use it. So that in their club, they could give it to all the individual players. But the difficulty with that is, how do they disassemble all the data? So it's like your phone is for you. And if I start using it, you kind of go, wait a minute, who should pay for what bit? It's very similar with this. It was all the data comes up. So the coaches had no way of disassembling that or knowing which is Kevin's, which is Ronan's, and so forth. Second thing was a lot of the retailers. They were happy to stock our product in that sense. And actually they're worrying about, well, will it sell because people don't know about it? But in the course of that conversation, they wanted to know, could they use it for fitting? So in simple terms, a putter can cost, a high-end putter can cost anywhere between 250, 400, 450 euros.
Yeah, it's an expensive piece of kit.
Yeah. So also a lot of the retailers, a lot of the pros are running out of road in terms of what they can sell. So they've already sold the drivers, irons, etc. They need a new revenue stream, so they wanted to sell putters. They asked us, could we fit? We spent some time, and the following year we came back to the PGA show, showing Homer Putts, the next version of it, and so forth, but also showing a coach product, which was very much a data management, if you want to call it that, product rather than any different hardware. But on the other side, Putter Fit, which was a fitting product. That's the one we got all the attention for. Again, with a little bit of luck, a little bit of hard work, Callaway came to the stand and they said they'd like to work with us to develop. Again, nice long story insofar as it took us a while to realize that we just had the biggest golf company, the chairman or the chief executive of the biggest golf company in the world on our stand. So, you know, call it luck or whatever, but we spent about 6-8 months working with Callaway in the UK, but also in the States, on building Odyssey Fits, which was their putter fitting tool. So we didn't turn away from the consumer, but the common sense approach was we now have an entry, a support by, endorsement by the biggest golf company in the world, Callaway. So you're kind of going,
it's a nice position. It's a nice position to be in.
Yeah. So you're kind of going, let's not be stupid here. So what we did was, it was a little bit of conscious decision, a little bit of, fate. This is what happened. So yes, we position ourselves. We're now going to go, like at the moment, what we're doing is the original product that we had put out, that was the coach product. Again, as I say, it was a simple data management. The last year we have spent listening to the coaches, listening to putter fitters as to what they want. And for the last 2.5 months, we've been building the next generation of product.
Brilliant.
So what we're building will be up, I suppose, again, in simple terms, our products up to now, we've taken maybe 6 or 7 different measures, key measures, but 6 or 7. So your face angle, your impact point, rotation, and things like that. The new products will have 15 to 20 measures. So new measures that we didn't have before. And it will certainly differentiate us from a lot of the other products in the market in that we can do things they cannot do. So we will come out with a new suite of products in about towards the end of June. They will be ready. And they'll be for your coach, your elite player, as well as putter fitters.
When you start working with Callaway, and you start to see this demand, a slight shift in model. How does that manufacturing process work? Like, I'm really interested to get an insight from. I suppose Des maybe had knowledge from the HP side and from the technical side, but how do you put timelines on future demand based on like your current supply?
Right.
Of stock. I'm sorry, that's there's a lot there, but
you need a book to answer all that one.
Yeah.
I think, well, I suppose first things first. Our product at the moment, because it's new technology, not just in the measurement technology is new, but also the actual hardware itself. So the plastic surface on the top, metal, all of those things were all new technologies. So we took a conscious strategic decision as a company not to just turn on my phone now that I think of it. Sorry, Ron.
Yeah.
We took a very conscious decision not to build different versions of the hardware.
Yeah. Okay.
To do that would be very much capital intensive. It would take a long time, and at the same time, anyway, we had an incredibly good platform. Good piece of hardware that could do an awful lot. We didn't see that even if we did make improvements to it or changes to it, how much more would we get? So we felt, hold on. So there's that. Des has, exactly as you say, Des's experience with Hewlett-Packard was both on the design side, into manufacture, into QA. So Des, thankfully, in his experience, would have designed not just the product that went to market, but also the production lines in Hewlett-Packard. Des would have designed those, overseen the build of them and all that. So now, perceived wisdom on this. right? So yes, we should be focusing on what's core to our business and what's our key skills, and outsourcing an awful lot of things. So we outsource an awful lot. We had outsourced the manufacture, we brought it back in-house for all sorts of reasons. Quality assurance was the biggest reason. We also found that we could do it for the same price, if not cheaper, and we could manage a lot of the I suppose all the different bits and pieces, all the supply chain. We were better at doing that.
Yeah.
So the theory is you give it to specialists outside, and certainly in a past life, I would have outsourced many things, but we just sat back and said, hold on, this is not going to stack up. I don't care what theory says, it's going to stack up that we do it ourselves. So we have a very good small team that we know that they have top of their head is that every single product that leaves our line will be perfect. It'll be tested within an inch of its life. Nothing will have a scratch. It will be perfect. Whereas I'm not so sure I could have said that if I outsourced it.
Yeah, it gives you good peace of mind that what's going out is 100%.
I think the other question, how to manage the supply chain. There's a little bit of both there. The supply chain for us is, what we don't want to do is invest an awful lot of money into hardware, into the mechanical parts. What we can do within our business, given that we're the only one producing this, there's a little bit of power on our side. So when we're working with somebody like a Callaway, we can get much more advanced notice as to what number they want, when they want it. And the same with our distributors in Korea and Japan. So we can, and if we again goes back to the question of consumer versus business, if we prioritize the business side of things, then we can look for them to give us a certain amount of notice so that we can do it. It's not perfect, but it's a better answer from our perspective than simply stockpiling.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's understandable. And like from you mentioned there Korea and Japan. What are your kind of major markets? Obviously, did you come in and test the water in Ireland and the UK first, and then start to expand it to Asia and America?
Well, I think one thing I'd say is, like, to be honest, Ireland isn't our market.
Yeah.
And I think that go back to the question around fundraising or investment, that has worked against us big time, to be honest, at the start, because the business of golf is not, I don't mean it's not understood in Ireland, but it's not the same as it would be anywhere else. The perspective on it, scale is dramatically different. Like Ireland is, obviously we have some of the best golfers in the world between, obviously Pádraig and et cetera, fantastic. However, it is a very small market. We're very slow to pick up, relatively speaking, to other markets. The ones that tend to pick up on technology quicker tend to be the Asian markets, as long as it's credible, as long as they believe you, as long as they believe the product, they will then dive in. But they're going to stand back until that moment when they think you're credible and your product is credible, and then they will be, in poker terms, all in. So whereas in Europe in general, very much more stand back, we wait and see what the other guy does. It takes an awful lot longer. So from our perspective, our priority customer is obviously Callaway. Callaway are worldwide. Our from a geography point of view, the distributors in South Korea and then Japan are our two. China, much less so. Two reasons. People often think about golf in China and say, of course, it's growing at a phenomenal rate. In reality, when you strip away that and look at the actual numbers, the number of golfers in China is much less than Japan or Korea. And the other side of it is the regulations, the procedures to get product into China is a nightmare. So many people have solved it and so forth. We took, again, a strategic view that says, wait a second, we've done all the slog to get our product into Korea. We've done the slog to get it into Japan. It's a massive uphill battle to get into China. So we'll do it, but next year.
So the next generation product coming out towards the end of June, what does the next 12 months look like for SQ9 home upwards?
Oh, wow. I think there's what I hope, right? So not just for us, but for the world, right? Let's make it simple. That, my fear is the same as everybody else's, that we're going to push this thing too far to get back playing golf, rugby, etc. We're going to too quickly try to get the world back to where it is. I think that if that happens, we will then see second and third waves and all of that. So from a pure health perspective, I'd start with that. I'm hoping that they have it right, but fear that they don't. If I expect that in some of the markets in which if I take away, if I'm dispassionate about it, I expect that some of the markets I've mentioned, they will go backwards. But I think on balance, they will go forward.
Sure.
So what we will see is that in the States, we will see a lot of coaches taking up our product there. So more a software product because they already have hardware that they've already used. I think we will see in Korea in particular, I have a personal view, I have a much higher confidence in Korea and Japan that they will get on top of these things. They tend to, if there's a problem, then they just deal with it. End of story. So we will see a lot more hardware sales into Japan and Korea, and we'll see a lot more students picking up our student product. Like Korea's back playing golf long ago. Their coaches are back in place and so forth. Again, China, Australia, a lot of other Asian countries are already there. I see us more rolling out the software side of it rather than just gallons of hardware products. Sure. So, like we will, the orders that we have for hardware are quite promising, but what I don't want to do is dive into that, because what we will see is big orders, and then if in another country, if we got a big order from another country and we go build it, we're then got quite a lot of stock sitting on the shelf for months while they solve the problem. So what I'm going to try and do is prioritize our software products and build hardware prudently. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so complement your existing hardware stock that's out with your customers, and then develop the software to help them. Yeah, cool. And just one final thing then before we go, Kevin. If is the product available for consumers to buy?
At the moment, we've probably in Ireland, right? If you take from which consumer, like we do have a number of consumers all over the world buying at the moment. At the moment, we're not shipping product. We're not shipping hardware. Now we will start again in a couple of weeks. That's fine. My priority from a business perspective is get all the software built while we're at it. The pricing on the consumer product in Ireland, people don't like that price, and that's fine. It's not our market, and that's fine. The price works fine in an Asian market or an American market. What we will be trying to do in about 6 months' time is to come out with a lesser consumer product, because at the moment it's all or nothing. It provides for the consumer an awful lot more than the consumer needs, the ordinary golfer. So what we're going to try and do is work out how do I go back and resolve the consumer side with the same hardware. I don't really want to build more hardware, different type of hardware. So, and in practical terms, what I don't want is that I'm selling a unit at a cheaper price to consumers and a dearer price to the business. That won't work. So I have a challenge to get the consumer bit right.
No problem. No better man to solve the problem then there, Kevin.
Thank you.
Look, thanks a million for your time today. Really appreciate it. If anyone wants to go visit it, like if we want to have a look at your product online, is it homeorputs.com?
Homeorputs.com will show vast majority of bits and pieces there to show the product itself. There's certainly a link there. If someone has a question, they can lob in a question on the support link.
Lovely. Perfect. Thanks a million for that, Kevin.
Thanks for your interest, Ron. Bye-bye.